If they nominate Nikki Haley, we're in trouble. That's what one senior Democratic strategist close with the Biden campaign said when asked about the former South Carolina governor. Nikki Haley is coming off a strong debate performance. Some polls show she had the best performance of the night. As a result, her polling numbers have improved. She's gained 5 points nationally. A post-debate poll in Iowa shows that she has moved into third. While Haley has a long way to go to actually win the nomination, she has emerged as a serious contender. But should the Biden campaign actually be worried? Let's head to the map and see how a Joe Biden versus Nikki Haley matchup would play out. Let's start by giving Nikki Haley the states she's sure to win: Alaska, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, both Dakotas, Nebraska at large, Nebraska's 1st and 3rd congressional districts, Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and of course, her home state of South Carolina. And now we'll give Joe Biden the states he's sure to win: Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, D.C., Maine at large, and Maine's 1st congressional district. So the baselines for each candidate are 125 electoral votes for Nikki Haley and 183 for Joe Biden. Now, before we dive into the remaining states, I want to talk briefly about Haley's recent campaign strategy, which I think is quite smart. Haley recently did an interview with ABC News where she said,
"Well, first of all, a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for Kamala Harris. You know that, and I know that. There is no way that Joe Biden's going to finish his term. I think Kamala Harris is going to be the next president, and that should send a chill up every American's spine. There's no way that Joe Biden's going to finish out a next term. We can't have an 81-year-old president."
And I think this is clever for a couple reasons. First, she highlights Biden's age, which is consistently a top concern among voters. Joe Biden was the oldest person ever elected president, and he'll be 81 by the next presidential election. Haley is really making Biden's age a big focus, and she has also called for competency tests for politicians over the age of 75. This is something Donald Trump can't really attack Biden on, as Trump is 77 years old. Second, Haley's comments target Kamala Harris, who has slightly worse approval ratings than Joe Biden, but how will these comments impact her ability to win the presidency? Let's head back to the map. I think Joe Biden pretty comfortably wins Colorado and New Mexico. He carried both states by more than 10% in 2020. Colorado has been trending blue for the past several election cycles, while Democrats have won New Mexico in 7 of the past 8 presidential elections. Virginia is another state that Biden should win. He won it by more than 10% in 2020, and Democrats have carried the state in the past 4 presidential elections. I think Glenn Youngkin is the only candidate who could really make Virginia interesting, but it's pretty unlikely we'll see him run for president. Minnesota is another state that has historically voted for the Democrat. The last Republican to win Minnesota in a presidential election was Nixon back in 1972. The margin has been tight at times, notably 2016 when Clinton only won by 1.5%, but it's a state Biden should win comfortably. On the flip side, I'd expect Nikki Haley to win Iowa by a comfortable margin. It wasn't too long ago that Obama won Iowa twice, but the state is definitely trending towards the GOP. Trump won it handily in 2016 and 2020. Maybe Haley wouldn't do quite as well, but I think she holds the state in 2024. Similarly, Haley should win Ohio. The former bellwether state has taken a hard right turn in recent elections, with Trump winning it twice and J.D. Vance being elected to the Senate in 2022. Next, I want to talk about New Hampshire. While New Hampshire does have a bit of an independent streak, Democrats have carried the state in 7 of the past 8 elections. In 2020, Biden won New Hampshire by more than 7%, and while primary results are not usually indicative of general election success, I think it's worth pointing out that recent polls show Nikki Haley has very little support in New Hampshire right now. If she was polling second in New Hampshire like Chris Christie, a candidate who is polling very poorly literally everywhere else, I think she might have a chance at flipping the state back. But I do think a Biden victory of about 5 to 8 points is the most likely outcome. There's one more likely state left on the map. I'm sure you can guess what it is, but before we talk about that, I want to say that if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, a really important milestone for YouTubers, because that's what YouTubers need to get before they can start earning revenue from all those ads you see before, during, and after videos. With that shameless pitch out of the way, let's talk about Texas. The GOP has won Texas in 11 consecutive presidential elections. However, the state has been tightening since 2016. Trump won Texas by 9% in 2016, and Beto O'Rourke nearly defeated Ted Cruz in the Senate race in 2018, and Trump only won Texas by 5.5% in 2020. Why is this happening? For starters, after the 2016 presidential election, Texas had one of the largest increases in new voter registration. Demographic shifts have also been favorable for the Democrats, as Texas is getting more diverse while its metro areas like Dallas and Houston are growing. I really do think we're close to an Arizona-esque flip in Texas, but I don't think it's going to happen in 2024, and I really doubt the Biden campaign will invest too many resources in Texas when there are more winnable battleground states. And for those reasons, I have Texas likely for Haley. With the safe and likely states out of the way, Biden leads Haley 225 to 188 electoral votes, and what we have left are states and congressional districts that'll probably be decided by 5 points or less. And here's where I want to discuss national polling. There aren't many head-to-head polls between Joe Biden and Nikki Haley, but one was conducted this August. That poll showed Joe Biden leading Nikki Haley by 6 points nationally. That is huge. Biden won the popular vote in 2020 by just 4.5%, and that translated to an electoral college landslide. However, we're still very far out, and 22% were undecided. Just bear in mind that Biden currently leads the hypothetical matchup. He has the advantage of incumbency, and he'll likely have better fundraising figures. With that said, let's talk Florida. Prior to 2020, Florida had voted for the eventual winner of the presidency in 6 consecutive elections. That streak was broken by Trump in 2020 when he won Florida by more than 3%. And in 2022, we saw an absolute GOP landslide, with Marco Rubio winning the Senate election by more than 16%, and DeSantis winning the gubernatorial election by more than 19%. Assuming Ron DeSantis hasn't completely destroyed the Florida GOP with his failed presidential campaign, I have to believe Nikki Haley would narrowly win the state in 2024. Before we talk about any more states, I do want to talk about our 2 remaining congressional districts. Both Maine and Nebraska award 2 at-large electoral votes for the winner of their state, and 1 electoral vote for the winner of each congressional district, and really I wish more states did it that way. We'll start with Maine's 2nd congressional district. Trump won this district by 10% in 2016 and 7% in 2020. Prior to Trump, Democrats had won congressional district 2 in 6 consecutive elections. This district is extremely rural and extremely white, and I think that whoever the GOP nominates will have a slight edge. However, I think Joe Biden has the slight edge in Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. It's a district Biden won by more than 6% in 2020. However, it is very much a swing district. Trump won it in 2016, Romney won it in 2012, and Obama won it in 2008. This district is competitive primarily because it's very urbanized relative to the rest of the state and is home to Omaha, Nebraska's largest city. However, in 2022, Nebraska's district maps were redrawn, and Saunders County was added to the 2nd congressional district. Saunders is a rural and very conservative county. In the 2020 presidential election, Republican votes outnumbered Democratic votes nearly 3-1. But these votes alone don't make up the margin necessary for the GOP to flip back the 2nd congressional district, and that's why I'm calling it lean Biden for now. Next, let's head to North Carolina. It's a state we know the Biden campaign is targeting it in 2024. And they nearly flipped it in 2020, only losing to Trump by 1.3%. North Carolina borders Haley's home state of South Carolina. I'm not sure how much of an impact that will really have, but most of the counties along the border are conservative, and if Haley can improve upon Trump's numbers in those counties, it could prove to be a difference maker in 2024. One of the reasons Biden nearly flipped North Carolina in 2020 is because he performed extremely well in the urban and suburban counties. Biden was the first Democrat to win New Hanover County since 1976, while Trump was held to a single-digit victory in Cabarrus County. Republicans had previously won this county by double digits in every election since 1976. One reason the Biden campaign is a little concerned about Haley is her potential appeal to swing voters because of her gender and her more moderate policy positions. In a Biden versus Haley matchup, I'd expect Haley to outperform Trump's numbers in these suburban counties, and I think the state remains lean Republican in 2024. And now for our first flip of the video, Georgia. Again, we have a state bordering South Carolina. How much of an impact would that really make? Probably not much, but Georgia was decided in 2020 by less than 12,000 votes. Every little bit helps. Georgia's Republican Governor Brian Kemp is also extremely popular with an approval rating of 60%. Georgia has also historically voted for Republican candidates, doing so in 8 of the last 10 presidential elections. I think the GOP is poised to win Georgia back in 2024, and I think Haley is the very slight favorite here. However, I do expect Joe Biden to hold on to Arizona. It was a somewhat surprising flip on election night, but the state has been trending blue for some time. It's very urbanized. The Latino population, which votes heavily for the Democrats, is growing, and the Democratic Party has done an excellent job in turning out the state's Native American vote, which proved to be crucial in 2020. Additionally, abortion rights advocates are looking to add a ballot measure in 2024 that would invalidate the state's existing 15-week ban on abortion. We've seen liberal voters be very energized by similar ballot measures in Ohio, Michigan, Kansas, and more. Also working against the GOP is their probable Senate candidate Carrie Lake, an unpopular figure in Arizona after her failed attempts to overturn the results of the 2022 gubernatorial election. A Noble Predictive Insights poll found that Carrie Lake's favorability has fallen 21% among independents. Working in Haley's favor is the fact that Arizona has historically voted for the Republican Party, and she doesn't have the baggage Trump had to carry for constantly attacking John McCain. Still, I don't think that'll be enough for Haley to flip back Arizona, and I have it lean Democrat in this matchup. Next, let's head to Nevada, a state which voted slightly more Republican than the country as a whole in 2020. Biden won the state by less than 2.5% in 2020, slightly underperforming Hillary Clinton's 2016 margin. In 2022, we saw Catherine Cortez Masto narrowly defeat Adam Laxalt in the Senate race, while Joe Lombardo unseated incumbent Democrat Steve Sisolak in the gubernatorial race. Today, Lombardo has pretty strong approval ratings, which could help the eventual GOP nominee. I think the GOP really needs to embrace vote by mail if they hope to flip Nevada in 2024. Nevada has universal vote by mail, and every voter is sent a ballot without even needing to request one. Republicans have been resistant to measures that make voting by mail or voting absentee easier, and Governor Lombardo wants to eliminate Nevada's vote by mail system altogether. On the flip side, Democrats have embraced these proposals, and they've shown dividends, as the Democratic candidates have been able to bank tons of votes prior to Election Day. I think Biden's incumbency advantage, his national lead over Haley, and his campaign's willingness to embrace Nevada's vote-by-mail system make him the slight favorite again in Nevada in 2024. At this point, Nikki Haley just needs Pennsylvania to win, while Biden needs Pennsylvania and one of Michigan or Wisconsin. These three remaining states really are coin flips, but I think Biden is most likely to win Michigan of the three. It's a state Biden won in 2020 by nearly 3%, underperforming his polling average, which was nearly 6%. But there are a couple warning signs for Biden. In 2020, he did very well among voters who were concerned about the COVID-19 pandemic, which probably won't be a pressing issue in 2024. And Biden's net approval among Michigan independents is minus 36, which is shockingly bad. However, Michigan has voted for Democrats in 7 of the past 8 presidential elections, and the Democrats have a strong Senate candidate in Alyssa Slotkin. Meanwhile, the GOP continues to struggle to find a good Senate candidate to run against Alyssa Slotkin, and the Michigan GOP is nearly broke. I'm not sure the GOP can get its act together in time for 2024, so I have Michigan lean Biden. I also think Wisconsin leans towards Biden. It's a state he won in 2020 by less than 1%, but he has led in every Wisconsin poll. Granted, those were matchups against Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. Democrats have done well electorally in Wisconsin recently, electing Janet Protasiewicz to the state Supreme Court, re-electing Tony Evers as governor despite his poor approval rating, and nearly electing Mandela Barnes in the Senate against incumbent Republican Ron Johnson. And curiously, the GOP has failed to find a Senate candidate to run against Tammy Baldwin. Mike Gallagher, Brian Steele, and Tom Tiffany have all declined to run against her. Which leaves us with Pennsylvania to decide the election. Pennsylvania is another state where Democrats have a strong Senate candidate, incumbent Bob Casey. The GOP got clobbered up and down the ballot in 2022. John Fetterman defeated Dr. Oz by 5%, and Josh Shapiro defeated Doug Mastriano by nearly 15% in the gubernatorial election. Some of that, of course, was a result of poor candidate selection by the GOP. In 2020, Biden pulled off a very narrow victory over Trump. His victory was largely a result of his dominance in the Philly suburbs. If the Biden campaign's concern about Haley is correct, that she could appeal to these swing voters, it's not difficult to imagine Pennsylvania flipping back to the GOP. Biden also outperformed Clinton in the industrial counties of Erie, Northampton, and Luzerne. I really wouldn't be surprised if he performed even better in these counties in 2020. With the incumbency advantage, I do think Joe Biden has the very slight edge here, bringing him to 287 electoral votes, winning the presidency. Who do you think would win a Nikki Haley versus Joe Biden matchup? Let me know in the comments section below. Then check out my next video to see how Joe Biden would fare in a rematch against Donald Trump in 2024.